Hello, Dr. Terry Wahls. Welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo podcast today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. You know, I'm a huge fan of your work. It did change my life and the course of my disease. So thank you for coming on today. It's such a
Mhm.
pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. So Dr. Terry Wahls is a medical doctor who also specializes in functional medicine and autoimmune disease, and you work with a lot of people with MS.
Absolutely.
Yes. So how long have you been a doctor for now?
So, I graduated in 1982, so a few years ago.
Yes.
And I have been doing research in MS since 2010.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember, so I was two then. I was born in 1980. I would have been 2 years old in 1982. But I met you in 2013. I was traveling and I reached out to you to let you know how much your protocol had changed my life and really helped me to recover after I experienced paralysis from multiple sclerosis. And I was traveling in the US, and I came and saw you in person in Iowa. And I said to my partner at the time who was traveling with me, that was the best day I've had next to walking again.
You know, it is remarkable how far you've come, how far I have come. And so many people with serious autoimmune disease give up hope when they have profound disability, thinking life has ended for them. And I think your story, my story, are examples to give them hope that, in fact, recovery and reversal of profound disability is quite possible.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. That's the core of why I do everything that I do too. And I know that's the same for you. And it's wonderful. We're
Correct.
very lucky, but there is so much that we can do no matter what our situation. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was 24 years old, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And 5 years later, when I was 29, that led to full left-hand side body paralysis, where washing and feeding myself became very quickly the hardest, the most difficult tasks of my day. But lucky, after living in rehabilitation for 2 months in a wonderful hospital, at the right place at the right time with the right people, and also a wonderful kinesiologist that helped me. They first thought I would never walk again, but thankfully, after 2 months of rehabilitation, I did walk again. But after coming home and grateful to be mobile, I still had to lie down half the day. I still had multiple MS symptoms that were debilitating and stopped me from, living a normal life. So that's when I started to hit the books and I studied nutrition to start with. And that's when I came across your work and the science behind and studies that showed that 90% of adults in Australia and kids are not getting their recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables. But what I learned from you was that when you're in need of repair, you actually need more than the recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables in particular.
Yeah, if we should be able to understand this. If a windstorm comes through and wrecks your house, you're going to have to haul away the debris. That's going to take some energy to get rid of the trash. And then you're going to hire another. So you had one set of contractors getting the trash out. Then you get a fresh set of contractors bringing in the building blocks to rebuild your house. It's the same for any autoimmune damage. It takes a lot of energy to haul away the damaged tissues, and then it takes more energy and more building blocks to repair and recreate healed, properly functioning structures.
Yes. Yeah. And when you understand that, it makes sense why we have to eat optimal nutrition to flood ourselves and nourish ourselves on a cellular level.
You can't waste any of your calories on empty calories. You can't be having added sugars. You can't be having white flour processed foods. You need to have these radical things known as vegetables, some fruit,
Mhm.
and my grandmother would say not too much fruit, some, and good protein.
Yes, yes, because you went from being vegan, vegetarian.
Yeah, vegetarian, 20 years.
Yes. And that would have been a huge step for you to embrace eating animal protein again.
Yeah, I switched. My neurologist introduced me to the work of Lauren Cordain. I read his books and decided that, okay, this made sense. He was quoting good science. So after a lot of prayer and meditation, I went back to eating meat. The following year, I needed a tilt recline wheelchair. So I'm still declining, but it's like, okay, how long does it take to have the great nutrition to begin repairing things? It might take several years. Yeah, and the good thing from the paleo diet was that it slowed my speed of my decline. I discovered the Institute for Functional Medicine. I took their course on neuroprotection, and I was also doing my own review of the basic science. So I had this long list of supplements to support my mitochondria because I had decided that mitochondrial dysfunction was what was driving disability.
Yeah.
So I added all those supplements, and and my speed of my decline is slowing, and I'm super grateful. But of course, I am still declining.
Yeah.
I'm really quite young. I'm 52.
Yeah.
I have young kids. My son is 11. My daughter is 8. And that's when I'm really asking myself, am I doing all that I can?
Yeah.
I'm launched into the research, taking these vitamins, these supplements. I've been doing the paleo diet, but I can't sit up. I'm in a zero gravity chair with my knees higher than my nose. I can take just a couple of steps with 2 walking sticks. I have profound fatigue. I'm exhausted by 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm beginning to have brain fog. Yeah. So I know that I will probably soon have to apply for medical disability and stop, retire from the VA, stop seeing patients. No, and I must clarify, at that point, I wasn't seeing patients myself. I was simply staffing the resident clinic. So the residents were seeing the patients and telling me the story. And that's how I was still in clinical practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so you studied all the supplements that would be required to nourish your cells and to boost the mitochondria. And then you decided, what if I ate food that instead of supplements, got it through food?
It's pretty funny now. In retrospect, I laugh at, why did it take me so long to have that aha moment? Like, what if I redesigned my paleo diet that I'd been doing for 5 years based on the long list of supplements that I was taking? So that was several more months of research. I found the Linus Pauling Institute for Micronutrients, and now I had a list of foods that I needed to stress. And as I said, at the time that I started this new way of eating, that was December 26, 2007, I could not sit up. I have worsening trigeminal neuralgia. I can take a couple steps using 2 walking sticks. And I have really profound fatigue. And I'm having brain fog. So I know that I am probably going to have to apply for medical disability. And my chief of staff, and he was probably right to have done this. He had called me in during the summer and told me he was assigned me to the traumatic brain injury clinic, that I have to start there in January. When he described the job, that I'd be seeing patients without residence. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to do that job.
Yeah.
And fortunately, that's when I discovered the Institute for Functional Medicine, took their course on neuroprotection, had this longer list of supplements. I discovered electrical stimulation of muscles. I asked my physical therapist, could I try that? He said, well, yes, we can grow bigger muscles, stronger muscles, but Terry, I just don't know if your brain can talk to them.
Mm.
I might be adding more weight to your leg, and I might be making it harder for you to take the few steps that you can. But he gave me a test session, hurt like hell. But when it's over, I felt really great. He said, it's probably from the endorphins. And so we added the electrical stimulation to my little bit of tiny amount of mat exercises that I was doing 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I had this longer list of supplements. And then, that summer I had what if I redesign my paleo diet? I do that research. And so I start this new way of eating December 26th. And then in January, I have to go to the traumatic brain injury clinic and start seeing patients without residence. So for the first 2 weeks, I'm just watching. Okay, I should be able to watch. And then the third week, I have to start examining the patients. So on Monday, I examine those patients, write my notes, and I come home. And my wife, Jackie, says, "So, honey, how did it go?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know, it wasn't too bad." And then, so I go to clinic, every day that week. And then on Friday, I say, hon, I think I can do this. And then here's the other thing that I do on that Friday. I say, I want to have supper. I want to take my meal in a regular chair. So I've been eating in a zero gravity chair, lean back. And so Jackie, bless her, she moves my zero gravity chair out and brings over a regular chair. And I have supper sitting at the table with my family.
That would have been massive.
That was huge. Yeah. That was huge. And then the next week, my physical therapist says, Terry, you're definitely stronger. I want you to start doing your exercises 10 minutes twice a day. Now, when I was doing my exercises, I was doing electrical stimulation while I'm doing my, little tiny mat exercises. So do 10 minutes twice a day, 15 twice a day, 20 minutes twice a day, half an hour twice a day. And then I was like, I'm going to start figuring out how to do this while I'm at work. And so I'm putting on my electrodes and I'm doing isometric exercises, and I'm moving the electrodes around because I'm weak everywhere. So I'm working on my belly, my back, my butt muscles, my quads, my hamstrings, my calf muscles, my tib anteriorlis. And then my physical therapist says, why don't you try walking? Yeah. And I'm walking with 2 walking sticks. And then I start walking at the hospital with 2 walking sticks. And my partners are all stunned, like, oh my God, is this the Tysabri? Yeah. And I say, well, no, it's not. And I show them my eStim device. And I start talking about what I've been doing with diet and some supplements. And then I'm walking with 1 walking stick, and then with none. And then now I'm up to the point where I can walk around the block. And and I tell Jackie, do you think I could try riding my bike again? Which I have not done in 6 years.
That's where I was hoping you were leading to. I knew, yeah.
And she says, if things keep going well, maybe this fall we can do that. Yeah. Well, 2 weeks later, it's Mother's Day. And I really want to try riding my bike. So we have this emergency family meeting because my children, who are 16 and 13, they don't want me to try. They don't want to have me risk falling and getting hurt and losing the ground that I made. But Jack says, we can try. So we all get into position. She tells my 16-year-old boy, who's 6'5", Zach, you run alongside on the left. Yeah. She tells my 13-year-old daughter, Zebby, you run alongside on the right, and she'll follow. So we all get in a position that she gives the all clear to take off. And I get on my bike and I bike around the block. Now that big 16-year-old boy, he's crying. The 13-year-old girl, she's crying.
Yeah.
Jackie's crying.
Yeah. They got you back.
You know, when I relive that moment,
Yes,
I cry. Because when you have progressive multiple sclerosis, and I have secondary progressive MS, you let go of the future. Because I learned in medical school, all of my physicians taught me that functions once lost are gone forever. If you have relapsing remitting MS, you might get them back, but with secondary progressive, they're gone, they're gone. And so as part of the adaptation, I let go of the future. It would take each day as it unfolded. And so it wasn't until I got on that bike and I biked around the block that I realized, well, who knows how much recovery might be possible. So after that, every day I biked a little bit more. And then in October, so a few months later, Jackie comes home and says, honey, I've signed us up for the Courage Ride. It's 18.5 miles. However far you go, it will be a triumph. And at that point, the furthest I'd biked was 8 miles.
Yeah.
But I made it. I crossed that finish line. Once again, we're all crying. You know, my kids are crying, Jackie's crying, I'm crying. And it fundamentally changes how I think about disease and health. It will change the way I practice medicine, and it will change the focus of my research.
And exactly what you just said there is everything I live for, because your belief about what could be possible about your future and your health and yourself shifted in that moment. And I really believe that what we believe is what matters. And then that translates into all the other areas of our lives. And MS gave you that gift, I suppose.
You know, it is remarkable. So I did all of that stuff, the supplements, the e-stim, the diet, not to get better, because at that point, I knew I couldn't. I knew the most I could hope for would be to stop the decline.
Yep.
I was remarkably better, but I didn't know what to make of it until I rode my bike. Then what I knew to make of it is like, the sky's the limit. Yeah. You know, how much better could I be? And I continued to work at it, continued to train, and I continue to make progress. I can now jog. So I would not have thought that would be possible.
Yeah,
I can do vertical jumps.
Amazing.
Not real high yet, but I can do vertical jumps.
And you're also back at work and delivering really important programs and research to help other people too.
Correct. We have made it our mission to teach other health professionals how to use these concepts in their clinical practice. I've made it my mission to do the research showing how diet and lifestyle can lead to improved function, higher quality of life, reduced disability in people with MS. Now we're adding other disease states. And we're also beginning to analyze my freezer to understand the biomarkers that are involved in diet and lifestyle as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. I understand that you are a huge believer in reducing stress, implementing exercise, and maximizing optimal nutrition. And like you, I went, from decline into more of a plateau. And when I started to flood myself with nutrients, and I also had to fix my gut health too, because when I added all of those extra fruits and vegetables, my stomach was, needed work to heal, to be able to receive and utilize the nutrients. But also I noticed that my symptoms started to subside and I could walk further. And then I also started jogging as well as I started to ramp up my nutrition and optimize my food. But also reducing stress is what I want to talk about next, because as you know, as a kinesiologist, I specialize in helping people to get to the cause of what's causing stress for them. And it's very unique and individual for all of us. And if what we think and how we feel and what we believe dictates our biochemistry of whether we are in a fight or flight stress response or whether we're promoting growth and repair instead, because they're the predominant
Absolutely.
pathways that we fire. So nutrition will help with that to fire growth and repair. But I'd love to get your take on how does stress and our mindset play a role here?
Well, if we're stuck in chronic stress, then I'm in the fight or flight, and my cellular resources are devoted towards helping me be better able to fight or flee. I have to have a sense of safety in order to have cellular resources that are going to be directed towards repair. And without that, you cannot repair. If I'm stuck in the fight or flight, I cannot repair. And so there's a bunch of different techniques we can use to help get that sense of safety. Epsom salts, Dead Sea mineral soaks, meditation, mindfulness, gentle exercise, gratitude practices, self-massage, forgiveness.
Connection within our relationships, how we feel about ourselves, changing the story from the past that might be causing us stress now.
Yes, these are all useful strategies that are just critical to moving away from that fight or flight response.
I also think that what causes the fight or flight response is when we have an inner conflict. So having a goal is not enough to make it happen. I think that what we believe is what matters. And when our goals align with our ability to believe in ourselves and also what can be possible for our future, there's alignment there. There's less stress. We can make things happen for ourselves easier, and there's more calmness in the body. But for many of us, our goals are not in alignment with what we believe can be possible. For me, when I was diagnosed with MS, I created an inner conflict where I thought, am I ever going to be loved? Am I going to have a family? Am I going to have a career? Am I going to be healthy? What I wanted was not in alignment with what I started to believe about myself and what could be possible. But those breakthrough moments that both you and I have had in on our own journeys of when you first walked again, when I first walked again, when you first bike rode a marathon, and when I first, did something similar with the MS walk that we have here in Australia, that belief shifts, and it comes from an inner conflict, goes from here into alignment. And that's why I called my business Bend Like Bamboo, because that requires flexibility. And for us to change our minds about the stories that we tell ourselves that can also put us in that fight or flight stress response, because we can get stuck there and we get addicted to the stress response with our digital world of constantly being busy, high expectations, and many different things, money and financial issues, connection within ourselves and within our relationships all need to be addressed to get that sense of safety as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I'm so pleased that you see the role that mindset and stress levels play in helping to repair autoimmune disease. Yeah.
The
So
mind is very powerful.
yes, it is. So is nutrition. So tell us about your you've got a program and a study, and you're recruiting
Yeah.
clients.
So we have a study, efficacy of diet on quality of life, and it is looking at the impact of a ketogenic diet, a modified paleo elimination diet, and the usual diet. And people are coming to Iowa, getting baseline assessments of walking, hand, vision function, and then what we call patient-reported outcomes, mood, quality of life, fatigue. We're also doing no contrast MRIs at month 0. They come back at month 23 for some blood work and some clinical outcomes, and again at month 24 for all of the assessments again. And the big question we're asking is, how does diet influence fatigue and quality of life? Our secondary outcomes are all those other clinical outcomes, and we're also, because we're getting a non-contrast MRI, we can see how does brain volume change over time. And can we, because what people should know is that as a group, people with MS, our brains are shrinking much too rapidly, about 1% per year, which is why we have more anxiety, more depression, more brain fog, more frailty, more nursing home care, more early dementia. In my clinical practice, we see that as I teach people how to use the Wahls Protocol, we get rid of anxiety, depression, we get rid of brain fog. And so one of my hypotheses is, one of the things we're testing is, by helping people improve their diet, can we get them to healthy rates of brain volume loss, which would be 0.3% per year or less. It's very exciting. We're still recruiting. I'll finish recruiting sometime in 2024. We'll follow people for 2 years, so we'll finish all of our data collection sometime in 2026. We'll be cleaning the data, analyzing the data in 2027, and hopefully presenting it at some international research meetings, and then submitting our manuscript for publication in 2028.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And can patients from all over the world participate in the study?
Unfortunately, no. You're going to have to reside in either Canada, the United States, or Mexico. However, I want people from all over the world to screen, and because you have a chance to answer the question, can you join our database? Because we do survey-based only studies. So for the survey-based studies only, people from all over the world could participate. So we want anyone from all over the world, whether you have relapsing remitting MS, progressive MS, please screen and be part of our database so you could be part of our other future studies.
Great, great. Well, I will certainly be sharing all the information on how people can do that.
And the website, terrywahls.com/MS study.
Perfect. Beautiful. And I will share all of that information in the notes in the podcast as well. And this is so cool. This is so great, Dr. Wahls. I've really loved talking to you today. Your work is so important, and it's my pleasure to share it with Australia and hopefully more people all over the world as well with my podcast.
I thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. And I'm really excited to release my book this month, Bend Like Bamboo. And if you want to learn more about, how flexibility can help you to reduce that stress response, and lots of information on mind, body, food and connection and my story, you can get my book on bendlikebamboo.com. Thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening, Dr. Wahls. And yes, I'm about to start my day here in Australia.
All right. Well, you go, girl.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bend Like Bamboo podcast. I would love you to rate it and share it with your community or anyone that you think might need to hear this episode. If you would like to discover the power of flexibility and how kinesiology and the Bend Like Bamboo program can help you, please book in for a free discovery call on my website, bendlikebamboo.com, under bookings, or email amanda@bendlikebamboo.com. You can see me one-on-one in Melbourne or on Zoom remotely. My book, Bend Like Bamboo, is now available on my website and bookstores online. And I'm also taking new clients into the 2024 Bend Like Bamboo 6-month program of monthly sessions taking you through all the lessons, tools, and strategies that I detail in the book, helping you to de-stress and reset and to reimagine what can be possible in your mind, body, and life.
Thank you so much for supporting the podcast, and I will see you at the next session.